to my channel. ഏവർക്കും എൻ്റെ ചാനലിലേക്ക് സ്വാഗതം. Today also, as usual, we'll be continuing the contrast medium session. I have done 3 sessions for contrast medium, part 1, 2 and 3. This is a continuation of part 3. So those who have not yet watched those videos, kindly watch, then it will be more clear to understand this session. So let us begin today's session, part 4, session 4, contrast medium. Moving on to the 21 question. An undesirable characteristics of ionic contrast agent is there. Option A, inertness. Option B, neutral osmolality. Option C, neutral pH. And option D, dissociation into a cation and an anion when dissolved in plasma. The answer is option D, dissociation into a cation and anion when dissolved in plasma. This is an undesirable characteristics of ionic contrast agent. Now let's see the explanation. Efforts to decrease the many side effects of ionic iodine contrast medium resulted in the development of molecules that do not dissociate into an anion and cation. The chemical breakdown into an anion and cation can be an irritant to cells. Although both ionic and non-ionic iodine media have physiological effects on the body, most ionic agents are higher osmolality contrast medium and therefore have shown greater effects and adverse reaction. So water-soluble contrast medium is classified into ionic as well as non-ionic. This ionic contrast medium is otherwise known as high osmolar contrast medium, and non-ionic contrast medium is otherwise known as low osmolar contrast medium. So the peculiarity of the ionic contrast medium is that it dissociates into anion and cation, which is an irritant to cells, and it is increasing its osmolality. Osmolality means the number of particles in a solute, which may result in greater effects and adverse reaction compared with a non-ionic contrast medium. Moving on to the next question, question number 22. Stomach examination using barium sulfate have some degree of risk for patients who are option A, sedated, option B, mentally disabled, option C, potentially hypovolemic, and option D, all of the above. The answer is option D, all of the above. So the above given options are risk for patients in risk of giving barium sulfate for stomach examinations. Now let's see the explanation. Sedated patients should not undergo upper gastrointestinal examination because the swallowing reflex is diminished, which greatly increases the risk of aspiration. Aspiration is a complication of barium sulfate procedure. Aspiration is also a risk for mentally disabled patients and patients with altered mental status. Patients who are dehydrated are also at risk because the barium tends to draw fluids from the colon wall and further deplete a patient's blood volume. So the patient who is undergoing barium sulfate examination should be well hydrated, since barium may result in the clubbing. If the patient is not drinking adequate amount of water, which may result in large bowel obstruction and which may result in constipation. Since this barium should be washed out from the body through the motion, so the patient should be well hydrated. Moving on to the next question, question number 23. The use of contrast material as a means for visualizing human anatomy has a long history. Regardless of the type of contrast medium, the purpose of using contrast medium is to option A, increase the patient radiation dose and improve the image quality. Option B, enhance the low subject contrast of anatomic structures. Option C, increase metabolism of the kidney and liver. And option D, improve the contrast between high contrast structures such as bone. The answer is option B, enhance the low subject contrast of anatomic structures. Now let's see the explanation. Contrast medium are diagnostic agents that are instilled into the body orifices or injected into vascular system, joints and duct to enhance subject contrast in anatomic areas where subject contrast exists. For that purpose, we are giving the contrast medium. Moving on to the next question, question number 24. Barium sulfate should be contraindicated for a patient with option A, colonic polyps, option B, a suspected duodenal bulb perforation, option C, diverticulosis, and option D, all of the above. The answer is option B, a suspected duodenal bulb perforation. Perforation means hole. If a patient is having perforation, if we are giving contrast barium, it may result in aspiration. Now let's see the explanation. If the patient is thought to have a perforation in the digestive tract, the barium sulfate is contraindicated. Contraindicated means we won't give the contrast because the body does not absorb barium sulfate naturally. So for all GI examination, we are giving barium as a contrast medium. Why we are giving barium means it is not absorbed by the digestive tract. If it enters the peritoneal cavity or the pelvic cavity by means of aspiration, the barium sulfate may cause peritonitis which may be surgically removed. Moving on to the next question, question number 25. Negative contrast agents. Option A, appear white on images. Option B, have low atomic numbers. Option C, provide high X-ray beam attenuation and absorption. And option D, are materials such as board and metal. The answer is option B, have low atomic number. Now let's see the explanation. X-ray photons are easily transmitted or scattered through radiolucent contrast medium because the anatomic areas filled by these agents appear black. That means increased density on radiograph. They are called negative contrast agent. These medium are composed of elements with low atomic numbers. Moving on to the next question, question number 26. Non-ionic iodine contrast agents differ from ionic agents in that non-ionic, option A, do not break down into a cation and an anion. Option B, have a low pH. Option C, have a small chemical structure and high osmolality. And option D, are not tri-iodinated. The answer is option A, do not break down into a cation and anion. So this is the main difference between ionic and non-ionic contrast medium. In the case of ionic contrast medium, it do not dissociate. It's a part, means the triiodinated benzene ring is composed of a substance which is not dissociating into a cation and an anion, which may result in low osmolality. Moving on to the next question, question number 27. Most adverse reaction to ionic iodinated contrast agents are caused by option A, their pH, option B, their iodine concentration, option C, their osmolality, and option D, the presence of iodine. The answer is option C, their osmolality. Now let's see the explanation. Most adverse reaction to contrast medium have been related to the osmolality of the solution, determines the osmotic pressure, which controls the movement of water in the body. Moving on to the next question, question number 28. Non-ionic low osmolality contrast agents have tremendous popularity with physicians as a safer choice for iodine contrast examination. It is important to remember that non-ionics, option A, are much less expensive than ionics. Option B, still pose a risk to renal function. Option C are more difficult to inject owing to its higher viscosity. And option D can be used on all patients regardless of cost and risk. The answer is option B, still pose a risk to renal function since this low ionic contrast medium or the low osmolar contrast medium are comparably they are providing less adverse reaction compared with ionic contrast medium. Still, it poses a risk to renal function. Now let's see the explanation. Most adverse reaction associated with water-soluble ionic iodine contrast medium are significantly reduced with the use of non-ionic media. This decrease is attributed to the decreased osmolality of the non-ionic media. Still, renal toxicity is a concern and must be considered when selecting the use of any iodine-based contrast agent. So, before administering the contrast medium, blood creatinine should be checked. And if it is optimized only, we will be giving the contrast medium. So with that, I'm winding up today's session. So today's session is more clear. If you have any suggestions, you can just WhatsApp me. I'll be giving my WhatsApp number as well as my email address in the description box. You can join my application. The link of my application will also be shared in the description box. Along with, if you are interested to purchase my book, you can order through WhatsApp. The book cost is only 199 including the shipping cost. So stay tuned till next Sunday. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned.